Students, hello again. And today we are going to begin our notes today and tomorrow. We'll finish our notes up tomorrow on this week's topic, DNA. So let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about our topic of the week, shall we? And let's start with a little riddle. I have a little puzzle for you to figure out. So if you haven't done so already, open up your books. Open up your books to, let's say, Open up your books to page 52. Page 52. On the bottom half of page 52, there is some space, empty space, that I'd like you to use to complete this little puzzle. And the first thing I would like you to do is to number from 1 to 26. Number from 1 to 26. Just a list. You can have separate columns if you need them, but number from 1 to 26. And what I'd like you to do is next to each number, assign a letter of the alphabet. So next to number 1, write the letter A. Next to number 2, write the letter B. And go all the way through the 26 letters of the alphabet from A to Z, so that every letter has a number and every number has a letter. So you can pause me now until everybody gets caught up. All right, by now you should all have a list of a secret decoder. That's right. Each of the letters of the alphabet are being represented by a different number. And in a moment, I am going to show you a secret code. And the first person to solve the code, stand up at your table and yell out the answer. I will give you a bonus point for the week. So, are you ready? Here is the secret code. Let's see who can decipher the code first. Get ready. Get set. Go. All right, hopefully you solved the code and perhaps you even agree with the solution. If not, we'll have to work harder to make that a reality. But as you determined from this little secret code activity, every letter of the alphabet was represented by a number, and by putting the numbers in a particular sequence, you were able to, by simple substitution, figure out what the message reads. Now, think of this for a moment. DNA is a secret code that makes you who you are. And it's not just 26 letters long. There are only 4 letters in the alphabet of DNA, but those letters are arranged in a position, or I should say in a sequence, that is about 6 billion letters long. Think about trying to decode that. Our scientist of the week this week knows something about it, and you saw a little video about Francis Collins on Monday and how his team was able to actually decode all of the sequenced letters in human DNA, 6 billion of them long. That is a long code. So let's get right into DNA. As you may have guessed, DNA is short for something. It is short for deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, if you think that is a mouthful for you to pronounce, we're going to take it one syllable at a time, and I would like you to repeat after me as I read each syllable to you. So I'm going to say a syllable, then you just echo it back for me, okay? And we'll work through this together. So by the end of this time, you will also be able to say deoxyribonucleic acid and have it just roll off your tongue as easily as you heard it being spoken right now. So the first thing I'd like you to do is let's see what our starting point is. Repeat after me. Deoxyribonucleic acid. All right, again, that may have been a mouthful for some of you. So let us take it one syllable at a time now, shall we? Repeat after me. D. Oxy. Ribo. New. Clay. Ick. Acid. D. Deoxy. Deoxyribo. Deoxyribonucleic. Acid. D. Deoxy. Deoxyribo. Deoxyribonucleic. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. All right, hopefully you are getting the rhythm of saying deoxyribonucleic acid. And perhaps you simply still prefer DNA. Either way is okay with me. So DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid, well, what in the world is it? Deoxyribonucleic acid has a very important function, not only in our bodies, but in the bodies of any living organism. And more specifically, it's found in each cell of a living organism, and more specific than that, in the nucleus of every cell of every living organism on the planet. And deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, stores and passes on genetic information from one generation to the next. Essentially, it is our genetic code. It is how a parent can carry on its genetic information to its offspring. Here we have a daddy Kermit and a baby Kermit. And baby Kermit is similar in nature to daddy Kermit because they are genetically related. And isn't it cool how they have similar characteristics such as transparency? Because as you know, it's not easy being green when you are working with a green screen. So Kermit and Kermit Jr., thank you for sharing your similar characteristics with us now. And it all has to do with the genetic code of the DNA of frogs. But we are no different. Well, let me ask you this. Have any of you seen maybe an old family relative or a friend of the family that you haven't seen in a long, long time, and maybe you were so young when you saw him last, you don't even remember who this Uncle Joe is, or this Aunt Frances, or whoever it might be. And they look at you with an astonished expression, and they say, "Oh my goodness, you look just like your father when he was your age." Or, "You just look like your mother when she was your age." Do any of you have relatives or family friends that are like that may recognize a similarity between you and your parents or you and older siblings? and you flat out reject any truth, any notion of factual observation regarding statements like those because you don't want to look like your parents or older siblings. But here's my question to you: why do you think they might say that? Any idea? Maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe there's some truth because if you are genetically related to your parents or older siblings, then chances are there are probably some similarities between you, even though you don't want to accept it. Believe me, I come from a family of 7 children, and so I know what it's like not to want to be like an older sibling. You want your own individual identity, but other people that look at my family see similar characteristics that exist between us. Why? Because we share part of the genetic code. We share parts of our DNA, our deoxyribonucleic acid. And you can't argue with genetic truth. So, like it or not, there probably are some similarities between you and others that you are genetically related to. So, let's pick up on this idea of DNA and what it looks like. DNA, the structure of deoxyribonucleic acid, was developed by Watson and Crick. Watson should be a familiar name to us. Watson is actually our scientist of the week this week, and I misspoke earlier when I talked about Francis Collins. That was last week, but you already knew that. But Watson is our scientist of the week this week, and he had a lot to say about DNA. He and others developed this model of DNA, this 3-dimensional structure, which I'm going to show you a picture of here. Not even a picture. I'm going to show you a model of the structure of DNA. So come over to our little virtual lab here, and I just so happen to have a model of DNA. And if you look at it here, it's kind of cool. And I'm turning it around so that you can see the different parts. It looks like even the green parts are somewhat visible. That's good. But DNA, it looks like this for very good reason, which we'll talk about in a moment. But you'll notice there are different letters on each of the steps of DNA, A, T, G, and C. As we go around and around the structure, it was Watson and Crick who discovered that the genetic code was contained in a combination of these 4 letters. And these 4 letters really aren't 4 letters. They're 4 chemical compounds that called phosphates that actually are nitrogen base pairs that actually fit together like puzzle pieces in only a certain way. And through their discovery of the structure of DNA, we have been able to learn so much more about it. So let's head back to our notes for just a moment. And as we continue in our notes regarding the structure of DNA developed by Watson and Crick, you may have noticed that the shape of DNA is kind of like a twisted ladder. Kind of like a twisted ladder. And this twisted ladder, or a spiral staircase, maybe some of you have actually been up or down a spiral staircase. If you've ever been up the Statue of Liberty, excuse me. By the way, I was practicing appropriate sneezing techniques by sneezing in my elbow. Pardon my sneeze there for a moment. But if you've ever been up to the Statue of Liberty or up a lighthouse, perhaps, maybe some of your homes even have one of these. but this spiral staircase is like a twisted ladder. Technically, it's called a double helix. A double helix. And I want to show you a close-up of a double helix and show you how it works. So back in the lab here, I have made a model for you of a double helix. And it starts with, I'll show you this side first. It starts with something that looks like a rope ladder. And on each rung of the rope ladder, you will notice I have it color coded, 2 different colors. But you can also see on the other side, I've written letters. And there are only 2 colors that go together. There are only 2 letters that go together. It's like a puzzle piece that only has one solution. But imagine this rope ladder. And you know what? This might be a good opportunity. It's the month of October right now, and it is Fire Prevention Month or Fire Awareness Month. And so let me just take a moment to provide a public service announcement. Since this is Fire Prevention Month, I have a question for you. How many of you live in a home where your bedroom is on the 2nd floor? Raise your hand. Now raise your hand if you have a rope ladder in the case of an emergency that you had to get out. Ooh, not everybody. This is very important. If ever you are on the 2nd floor of a home, like in your bedroom, and if a fire were to break out, you would need to evacuate or get out of your home safely but quickly. And they actually make rope ladders that you can use from 2nd floor bedrooms so that you can climb out the window safely and quickly and get down to the ground level. Never jump out of a 2nd floor bedroom window. By the way, since it is October, Fire Prevention Month, I'd like to add another public service announcement. Go home today and check your smoke detectors. Make sure your smoke detectors have all fresh batteries and test them. Test your smoke detectors, make sure they're working. And this is a great time of year to discuss with those that you live with at home what you do in the case of an emergency and where do you meet outside the home. You know how we have fire drills here every month at school since the time you were in kindergarten. It's always a good idea to do the same thing at home at least once or twice a year to do a little test at home. Make sure everybody knows that if something happens inside and you have to get out quick, where should you meet outside and how do you get out to meet there? So I hope you take my advice. You know what? I'll give bonus points to anybody who tells me about your fire prevention plans and safety plans at home. So send them my way and I'll give you a bonus point for this week. All right, back to our rope ladder. I'll hold it this way so that you can see it in its entirety. But as I mentioned, each of the colors or each of the letters represent a different nitrogen compound. And all of these letters, all of these chemicals have to fit into a very small area. And one way nature has found to decrease the volume of information is to twist it into position. Now notice I am twisting my little rope ladder here. It actually takes up less space. We'll actually even talk about this more in the near future, but it was Watson and Crick who discovered this twisted ladder or double helix appearance of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Let's head back to our notes. All right, so here we are back. So DNA is in the shape of a twisted ladder, otherwise known as a double helix. And as I've mentioned a couple times, you can take a moment to write this down now. The steps or the rungs of the ladder The steps are made out of nitrogen base pairs. And so now I'm going to tell you what these letters stand for from our model to real life. What do those letters stand for? Well, let me show you them all together here first. You don't have to write them down yet, but there are 4: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. They may be pronounced differently, but I'm going to use those pronunciations to emphasize something as we go through each one of them. So let's begin with the letter A. Why? Because the letter A is a great place to start. When you read, you begin with A, B, C. When you sing, you begin with do, re, mi, do, re, mi. The first 3 notes just happen to be do, re, mi. All right, enough singing here, Mr. Skirps. Let's get back to science. So A. The letter A in DNA stands for adenine. Now, if you add a 9 to 10, what do you get? I hope none of you said 21. Hopefully, you all said 19. All right, but adenine. Adenine is the name of the first nitrogen base pair. It's just what it's called. You don't have to worry about why is it called adenine. It's just called adenine. That's its name. Why am I Mr. Skirps? That's what I was born with. Well, actually, I was born with the name Henry, but my last name is Skirps. All right, the next one is T. The T stands for thymine. Oh, there's my thigh. That's mine. All right, thymine. Thymine. So we've got adenine and thymine. Now, in your notes, I want you to put a little bracket like this and write the words paired together, because A and T, adenine and thymine, are always paired together. They're puzzle pieces that fit perfectly with one another. Adenine and thymine are always paired together. They go together like sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding. Okay, let's move on, Mr. Skirps. Next, we've got G. G stands for guanine. Guanine, not guano. Oh. By the way, do any of you know what guano is? It's bat poop. So it's not guano, it's guanine. Guanine or guanine is what the letter G stands for, and that brings us down to the C. The C for cytosine. Now, also in your notes, write brackets again and write down that the G and the C, the guanine and the cytosine, are always paired together. Again, they go together like puzzle pieces. So the A and the T go together and the G and the C go together. And I'm going to try and help give you a way to remember that as we proceed. Hopefully you've had enough time to write these 4 nitrogen base pairs of DNA down. Again, they are adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So now here comes our little memory aid for the day. What do we have a picture here of, everybody? A turtle. And isn't our turtle super duper cute? Isn't it cute? I just love little turtles like this. Look at that. A cute little turtle. Now, this time of year, it's starting to get cold outside. And do you know what happens to a turtle when it gets cold outside? Do you know what happens to a turtle? Because turtles are ectothermic organisms, when it gets cold outside, a turtle gets cold. A turtle gets cold. When it's cold outside, a turtle gets cold. And if you want to keep your little turtle friend from dying, what can you do? Give it a nice little warm blanket to keep it warm and snuggle close with it. Actually, don't do that. In fact, in the state of New Jersey, it's illegal to own a turtle without a special permit because turtles are known to be carriers of a terrible bacteria in their poop called salmonella. And because we have so many people in the state of New Jersey, our legislators have determined that we cannot be trusted to wash our hands after petting our pet turtle. So you really can't own a turtle in New Jersey unless you have a permit. That is a piece of paper saying you will promise to wash your hands after you touch your little turtle friend. So be careful if you're handling turtles at home, ladies and gentlemen, because turtles and other reptiles, for that matter, can harbor little microorganisms that can make you very, very ill. But metaphorically speaking, we would want to put a little blanket and cuddle up to our little turtle. Yeah, to keep it warm, because ectothermic organisms are those that have body temperatures that are equivalent to the outside body, outside temperatures. But all right, so let's move on. Opie, why did I tell you about a turtle gets cold? Could anyone tell us by a show of hands why did I tell you that a turtle gets cold? I hope you got the connection between the first letter of that silly little sentence you can probably remember very easily and the first letter of each of these words that you might not be able to remember so easily. And they go in order. A and T, adenine and thymine always go together, and G and C, guanine and cytosine, always go together. So keep that in mind as we continue learning about the nitrogen bases of DNA. So let's introduce what we will be talking about tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's always tomorrow to learn how nitrogen bases of DNA replicate. And that's our topic for tomorrow. We're going to discuss tomorrow the replication of DNA. So let's see if you can look up the word replication and let me know what you think it means tomorrow at the beginning of the period. So that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. And so for now, I'm going to say bye bye.